Alopecia Awareness Month, and here on René of Paris we have been doing a series of live streams focused on alopecia related topics. I am the Alopecia Ambassador for our channel, and so I always love to come on here and talk about the perspective of wearing wigs from someone who has worn wigs pretty much daily since the age of 7. I do love rocking the shaved head look as well now and then, and also just the lifestyle experience of having alopecia. So I've had alopecia since about age 2, and so in today's video the reason I'm starting with no makeup is to show you my daily alopecia makeup routine. So I'm going to especially be focusing on my lashes and brows as I go through this live stream, and of course as I go through, feel free to comment questions if you're watching live. If you want me to elaborate on anything more specifically, I can do that. That's why these live streams are really fun, to get more in depth, that in almost kind of like one-on-one kind of aspect. And then of course all of our live streams get posted to our channel later on René of Paris, so if you ever want to go back and rewatch a certain part, you can do that. I also have made an alopecia makeup tutorial for the René of Paris YouTube channel that you can also go there and watch that in full. Now, I'm really excited to show my brows in this video because I feel like every single time I do an alopecia makeup routine video, my brows are different from the last time I did them. And so yeah, so I'm just gonna get right into doing my makeup for starters. And of course it is Alopecia Awareness Month, so I will be rocking the bald head look for this video. Remember that the wigs are here as an accessory if you want them, but they are not a necessity. That's like my personal favorite little slogan to say. Wigs are an accessory, not a necessity. And of course at René of Paris we believe the exact same thing, that they're here if you want them, but you're beautiful both ways and you don't need them. And I think that's really important for me to emphasize as someone who has been bald my whole life. Is I've never liked the idea of certain wig companies trying to like lure you in by being like, oh, we'll fix your problem. Like, if anything, you don't need it, but it's there if you want it, and it's fun to wear the different styles. So I also, this is a wig from the Amore Collection. This is an older human hair style from the Amore Collection, but there are some beautiful human hair styles from that collection that you should definitely check out. But generally the Amore line that we have is specifically designed for people with hair loss. So of course you don't have to have alopecia or hair loss to wear the Amore Collection wigs, but they are really, really great for that purpose. So I do also have 2 of my favorite synthetic Amore wigs here as well that I'm going to show you later in the video. The reason I have 2 very drastically different colors here is because as I do my brows, I'm going to show you how I do them differently if I'm wearing a lighter wig or a darker wig. And yeah, so I'm gonna get right into it, and then this is a beautiful human hairstyle from the Amore Collection as well. So when I get to putting the wigs on, I'll show you more details of the wigs, but definitely check out the Amore Collection if you haven't already. If you are someone that experiences hair loss, they just have some really nice features for that purpose. Just really comfortable wig caps, very, very natural looking. And yeah, I also love that the collection has both synthetic and human hair wigs because I love wearing both for different occasions. And generally for my daily wear wigs, I love the synthetics because they are so easy to manage, take no work whatsoever. You just take them out of the box, put them on, and you're good to go. And I think that's really great as someone who wears wigs daily for alopecia, because I don't want to necessarily always have to spend a lot of time putting on my wig and taking time to style it. Having a synthetic style that I can just throw on and go out the door and I can trust it's going to look natural is so absolutely incredible. So let me just start doing my makeup routine. As I talk, I'll probably try to get through the non-alopecia parts relatively quickly, but if you have questions about them, let me know. Also, a lot of the products I use are on the cheaper side, which I think is really great because I think if it works at a lower price point, then that's great. You don't necessarily have to get expensive makeup products for it to work well. So right now I'm using this e.l.f. primer, but I really like this because it's kind of a 3-in-1 sort of product. It's very moisturizing, it has SPF. They always say you're supposed to wear SPF daily, but I always forget that step, so having it built into my primer is fantastic. So yes, primers are so essential for putting under your concealer or foundation, and I never used to think that primers did anything. I thought it was just like a marketing ploy, and then I started using primers under my concealer and I was like, oh, it's not normal for my concealer to crease all the time? Like, that is what primer is for. So yes. This is also nice. It's almost like a 4-in-1 product because on top of all the other things I mentioned, it has a really light skin tint. And I don't usually wear foundation, so it is nice to have that extra little skin tint if you want it. It also comes in non-tinted version or in different shades, of course. Okay, so what should I do next? I will just do my concealer really quick. Generally, I don't wear foundation, but I do have my e.l.f. Halo Glow, which is a kind of nice, very sheer, it's called a liquid filter, so people use it as a foundation, but it's very sheer and very lightweight. So I will put a little bit of this on just because it is a makeup video, so why not go all out? Most days I don't bother with this though. And I guess while I'm doing my makeup, I'll also touch on some points that I do differently if it's a day where I'm not wearing a wig. So if I am not wearing a wig, I might be a little more inclined to use a little bit of this and kind of blend it up towards the top of my head. When I get to the contouring step, something that I find really fun to do is even to kind of contour my shaved head. And as someone with alopecia, I used to be very insecure about going out without a wig and being seen without a wig. And I have made so much progress with that with even just the last couple of years, which I'm so happy about. And I love the bald head look. And some of the things that have kind of helped me to get more confident going out without a wig are just knowing how to do my makeup for the no wig look as well. So even just very slight contouring when it comes to going out without a wig is really nice. So yeah. If I was going out without a wig, I probably would blend this all the way back, but I'll skip that for now. We're gonna put a little tiny bit of concealer, not too much. Little goes a long way. This is the e.l.f. concealer, the e.l.f. hydrating concealer. Absolutely amazing. Again, as you'll see, so far everything I've used is e.l.f., so I do like my lower price point products. Hey, if you save money on makeup, then you can spend it on wigs. That's my motto. Okay, so yes. So sometimes I get asked the question, especially as someone who switches up my wigs on almost a daily basis. I wear very drastically different colors and styles all the time. Sometimes people will ask me about how I adjust my makeup for each style. And it really does vary because the color will make a difference, because then I'll just kind of use makeup shades that look good with that hair color, but the hairstyle also makes a big difference for me as well. There's certain styles that feel really glam that I like to have more arched eyebrows because it just kind of has that sassier look, and then other ones that kind of look better with thicker brows, thinner brows. Look at this really cute little Hello Kitty makeup palette. So far I'm using a lot of cream makeup because it helps my skin stay moisturized, and then you can kind of set it with powder versions afterwards. Okay. So for my brow step that I'll get to soon, there's a lot of different ways that you can do brows for alopecia. And I think it's really good to experiment with all of the different methods to see which one you like best and which one works for you. So something that a lot of people really like, especially if they have no brow hair whatsoever, there are little eyebrow temporary tattoos or brow transfers, whatever you might call them. And my air conditioning just kicked in. Hopefully it's not too noisy. But those are really, really fantastic if you're someone that wants to just put them on, not spend too much time doing them. And they're essentially like temporary tattoos, sort of like what you might get as a kid. Like, I don't know if you remember being a little kid at parties and they had temporary tattoos where you'd like place it down like a piece of paper, apply water, and then when you peel it off, it leaves whatever the image is. Basically the exact same concept, but for your brows. So literally you just like put the piece of paper with the brow transfer on your brow, apply a bit of water, and it sticks and stays. And some of them look so incredibly realistic. There are a couple of brands and like types that I would recommend over others. For the longest time I used to use these really, really cheap ones and I couldn't figure out why they didn't work for me, and it was because they just were not good quality. So that's the one thing in my makeup routine that I might spend a little bit more money on, is the brow transfers. Getting the slightly more expensive ones does make a huge difference. Also because the higher quality ones, especially if you have no brow hair whatsoever and you're putting them directly on your skin, some of the really good quality brow transfers can last you up to a week. So that's really amazing. I do actually have a bit of brow hair. So there are a lot of different types of alopecia, and my type of alopecia kind of fluctuates a lot. So my brows will come and go. So while the brow transfers do work for me, they really only last me a day, 2 tops. But if you're someone with no brow hair whatsoever, those are a really great option. So in my makeup routine, I actually like to use pencil. And it's not just because of the fact that I have brow hair, the transfers don't work for me as well. The other reason I like to use pencil is because I do switch up my hairstyle and hair color a lot. So having the flexibility to lighten it if I'm wearing a blonde wig, darken it if I'm wearing a darker wig, change the shape based on the style, I really like having that flexibility. Whereas if you have the brow transfers, you kind of just have to stick to whatever the style that you get is. So I'm gonna put a little bit of powder on first to set the makeup that I have under. I did forget contour, so I'm just gonna do that super quick. Again, a little e.l.f. contour palette. I do want to show this step only because I do contour my head differently if I am wearing no wig. I think when I am rocking the bald head, no hair look, I think contour is a really important step in my makeup. If I'm choosing to wear makeup, of course all of this is optional and just for fun. But when you're not wearing hair, if you don't have any hair, then this part of your head is a lot more visible than it would be otherwise. So I kind of just like to add a little bit more dimension, kind of going up and back a little bit more on the sides, nothing too crazy. But just kind of extending the contour you would already do back a bit more. And then I also like to go along the top of my head too, because it just kind of helps to frame your face, especially if you're not wearing a wig. It's just kind of a nice way to continue that contour up. So yes, usually I wouldn't bother with that step on the days where I am wearing wigs, but on the days where I'm not wearing wigs, I just feel I like the look of the contour across the top of my head as well. Just doing a very slight nose contour. It's amazing what contour can do. It can really change your features if you do it properly or do it in a certain way. I just like to use it to add a little bit more color back to my face, because once you put the foundation on, sometimes it kind of just makes everything very uniform looking. And about to get into the brows for alopecia, but first I'm just going to do a little tiny bit of powder, because that's an important part to mention with the brows, is sometimes if you're putting brow makeup on top of other makeup, it might be a little bit more slippy and hard to work with. It might smudge more easily. I find that working with a more matte surface for the brow area helps a lot. It kind of just helps you get a little bit more of a precise pencil line. Whereas if I put it over kind of moisturized skin and I put the brow product on, it'll just wipe right off really easily. Sometimes it's even better to make sure you're putting the brow product over, like almost do that first. You could put it before you put any other products on, because then you're going to be guaranteed that it's not going to be, that it will be a good base for it. That's definitely true with the eyebrow transfers I was talking about before, that are kind of like temporary tattoos for your brows. Those you want to make sure there's absolutely nothing on your brow. Sometimes I will even use an alcohol wipe just lightly on my brow to make sure it's totally clean, no moisturizer, no foundation. That's how you get the brow transfers to last as long as possible. But again, because I don't know if you guys can really see, I actually do have a decent amount of brow hair right now. That definitely fluctuates a lot, and the brow hair that I do have is also very, very light, so you can't really tell, which is kind of funny. But I always joke that it's, oh, just my luck, like I finally got a little bit of brow hair and it's too blonde to even see. I've even been considering using like a little bit of a beard dye or something to dye. I've heard that's a good thing people use to dye their brows, so maybe I'll try that at some point. But they are very, very sparse. So back to the pencil. A lot of people ask me questions about how to align your brows as well. So a trick that I learned that I just find is a good way to make sure it stays symmetrical is you can use your pencil and kind of line it up on this part of your nose or here, whichever works for you, as long as you're doing it the same on both sides. So I'm gonna do it from here. If I go straight up from there, I'm gonna go straight up from here, like from this little part there. Or I've also heard some people say that if you line it up from here, going across the inner corner of your eye, kind of lining it up there. Whatever variation of this you're doing, basically just make sure you're doing it the same on both sides, because the idea is just to make sure it stays symmetrical. The middle point of my brows is the thing that has always given me trouble when I was new to doing my brows. I used to do them really, really close together. For a while I would do one really close and then one over here. So just making sure you're lining it up with the features on your face will really help it to be kind of mirrored. So it's almost like adding a little guideline, like a little dot. Now I'm going to line it up here, and then if you're looking forward and the pencil goes straight across your pupil, that tip there is kind of a general guideline for where the highest point of your brow should go. Do the same thing on both sides. That's something else I often struggle with. If I don't always map it out like this, but if I am just freehanding it, and then I look at my brows later, I'll realize that one has the arch like way too high, way too low. So it's just really good for guidelines. That's the other reason I like using pencil is while you're working with it, it's really easy to adjust the shape as you go. Whereas if you put the brow temporary tattoos or something like that on, if you want to change the way it's placed, you have to completely take it off and start over. Whereas with pencil, it's really easy to just lightly erase with your finger and then redo it. So this is a retractable brow pencil. This specific one is from CoverGirl. This is a relatively new product that I've been trying and I really like it. It is the Clean Fresh Brow. I'm using the color medium. And basically any retractable pencil like this is great because you get that individual brow hair effect. Because what you want to do is kind of feather it like that, very, very lightly. Very light hand because you're going to kind of go through and layer it. You can almost make it look too sparse to begin with and then go over again because you really just want to create the effect of making it look like it's overlapping hairs going in different directions. So the way I used to do my brow is I would just go in with a straight line, like when I was first starting to do my brows when I was maybe like, I don't know, much younger. And then I learned that if you're doing brows for alopecia, you're going to be doing it differently than if you have brow hair, because it's almost like you're creating the optical illusion of having brows. And as you learn to do this, if I'm doing my brows quickly, I can do them in 10 seconds and be done. But I'm trying to do it just slowly and carefully so you guys can see what I'm doing. And it's getting a little messy, but that's what I love about pencil, is you can kind of just use your finger, erase it, shape it. If the guideline points are a little too dark, then you can erase those with your finger. And for my wig wearing, because I always change from different shades, I like this medium brown color because if you use a little bit and use a light hand, it's kind of good for a lighter brow, like that. So I'll put on a wig in a moment just so you can see the difference. But if I am wearing a dark brunette wig, like one of the ones I have here, I would just go in and layer it a lot more. And so almost veer on the side of being too sparse because you can always add more. But once you have a lot of product in there, it's kind of hard to reel it back in and make sure it looks like a natural brow again. Okay. If you do have a little bit of brow hair like I do, it's kind of nice to be able to use that as a guideline. But the steps that I showed to kind of map out your brow are also a good way to find where they should be placed without having any brow hair. Okay, so here you can already see something I very often do. For some reason, I very often make this one more pointed and this one more rounded. And these kind of things, you'll notice the mistakes you're inclined to make every single time. That's one of the ones that I always make. But with pencil, it's really easy to just soften that edge now that I notice that. And then once you have the mapped out brows more or less, you can go back in and check those guidelines one more time. Something else I always end up doing is I always make them go a little bit more over the line. But none of those things are bad necessarily. They always say eyebrows are sisters and not twins, and as long as it's more or less symmetrical, then I'm happy with it. I also find that a lot of times I'll make the brows too thin and too much above my brow bone, so something I've picked up on is to kind of go in after and add a couple little brow hair flicks starting from below to make sure I'm not making them too thin. So again, this brow process, if I'm not trying to explain it as I go, I can do this in 10 seconds and be done. So a lot of these steps, once you practice, they'll be quite easy to do. The brow transfers are a really good option. I know a lot of people with alopecia who love those because once you put them on, they can last for up to a week. And you can also take them off sooner if you want to, so you're not stuck with them. I do have a video on my page of that if you want to see that process. But again, they work best if you have no brow hair whatsoever, and I do have some sparse brows, so they'll really last a day for me, but they still look so realistic. So I save those sometimes for if I want to make sure my brows just look really, really good. Now I'm happy with that as is, but I also like to layer it with the NYX Lift and Snatch. This is a fantastic brow product. It's basically like a liquid eyeliner kind of tip, but it's a lot thinner and not so dark as an eyeliner would be, so it's really good for your brows. This is easy to overdo, so you want to just kind of do a couple little flicks. I find that using two different types of products, for example, pairing the retractable pencil with this, it's kind of making the lines less uniform, so it's kind of a mix of the two different types of lines. And I think that just makes it look more realistic, adds more dimension. It's almost like if you imagine you're in an art class. Usually you go in with the pencil and then you add lights and shadows. So just like with this, it's almost like you're adding in the shadows of the hair with this product. For anyone who's in the art world, I think that's a good way to kind of explain it. Okay, so what is next? Generally, I'm pretty happy with my brows there. And a lot of times I'll finish the rest of my makeup and then go back and look at the brows again and see if I still like them. But I think this is great. I put a lot more time and I'm a little bit more careful with my brows if I'm doing days where I'm not wearing a wig because they're just so exposed. But I also love wigs with bangs and side bangs. I always have, because they kind of help to cover your brow. So if you're self-conscious about your brows, it just kind of helps to hide it. So I really love that as an option. Let's see. So at this point, I don't always put powder over my brows immediately, but if they're feeling a little slick, like if I put it over other product, sometimes that does just help to mattify it again. And translucent setting powder, like this one. Basically, it's powder that doesn't have a color, it's just translucent to help mattify. It helps the brows to last a lot better. And also, if your brows are looking too shiny, that's not going to look very realistic because actual eyebrow hair wouldn't be shiny the way makeup would be. So that just kind of helps to mattify it. And at the end of my makeup routine, I use setting spray. Sometimes I'll even use it multiple times in the routine, but a good setting spray is so essential because brow products, like brow pencils like this, if you just leave them and then you go to wipe them off, it'll probably wipe off pretty easily, but once you use the powder and the setting spray, they should last you the whole day without any issues. So I'll save this for the end, but I really like this setting spray. It's another one I've got recently that I've been trying. The Milani Make It Last also has SPF. So if you're someone who often forgets to use SPF, putting it in your other makeup products is so nice. The fact that it's in my primer and it's in my setting spray, I think that's great. Okay, now I'm gonna do lips really quick just because I feel like my lips are looking really pale. That's not an important step with the alopecia makeup process, but I just have very thin lips that are also prone to getting kind of pale looking, so I like to use a lip liner. And you know how you hear people talking about overlining your lips? And when I first heard this concept, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna try that, and like overlined all the way around and looked totally crazy. I feel like the trick to overlining your lips is just to do it in key spots. So I like to put just a teeny tiny bit of overline on my Cupid's bow. And then I match that line to the rest of my lip. So I'm not overlining on my whole lip. I'm just doing the tiniest little overline in the middle. And it's barely even an overline, but. And then moving that line back to where your natural lip is, it'll help that look more natural. And then also just the tiniest bit of overline just on the bottom. I'm pretty much only there, and then I match it with the rest of my lip. So I think the fact that it's only overlined in these two key spots overall makes my lips look a lot more plump and luscious, but it doesn't look fake. Like if you looked at it from the side, like here, it's still just my regular lip line. And I've also been using this NYX Filler Instinct Lip Balm recently. This is supposed to be a lip plumping thing. It doesn't really plump your lips. I like it because it makes my lips look really nice and moisturized. My lips are also prone to being quite dry, so having lip balms with a little bit of tint is a good way to add some color to it without being too drying, like most products are for me. Whenever I kind of blend it with my finger, I like to just use that as a little bit of blush after. Okay, for anyone just joining, this is my alopecia makeup routine today for Alopecia Awareness Month. So I did my brows already, and now we are going to get into eyeliner and lashes. So eyeliner is an optional step. I like to use eyeliner because I find that it makes the lash blend and look more realistic for me. You don't have to use this step, but also before I was comfortable doing my lashes, I don't have really any eyelashes at all. So unlike the brows where I had a little bit of brow hair, I really don't have any eyelashes. And when I was younger, especially when I was like in middle school, high school, and I wasn't like putting on fake lashes every day, of course, at that age, I started wearing black liquid cat eyeliner because I felt like it just kind of covered that area a little bit so it wasn't as noticeable that I didn't have eyelashes, if that makes sense. It just made me feel more confident. So again, that's not something like you have to do by any means, obviously, but I just found that it kind of helped hide that area. And then I will show you my lashes as well. I'll get to that after. But I like to have a lot of different styles of lashes on hand. This pack is a bunch of really dramatic lashes that are just so fun. I also do a lot of costume and cosplay looks. Those are fun for this, and if I just really want a really glam, kind of like cutesy look. And then this is a pack that I really like of natural lashes. These are just like a cheapo pack that I found on Amazon. I have them. I have a lot of my favorite lash and brow products for alopecia linked on my blog. So my Instagram is abbyandrew.yt. And if you go to my website as well, you can see where I have my blog of my favorite products on there as well. But yes, so these lashes I really like as a natural style. A lot of the stuff is personal preference. For some people, they might look at a lash like this and think that this is a dramatic lash. For me, this is my version of a natural lash, and then my dramatic lashes are like these huge ones. But lashes do not have to be expensive. There are some brands that will sell you a pair of lashes, like an individual pair for like $15, $20. And that's wild to me because this whole pack of however many lashes was like $9. And I rewear them a lot too, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on lashes for them to look good. Okay, let's see. So I will do my eyeliner. So I like to use black eyeliner, and then I use a lash glue that dries dark because I find that it just kind of helps it all blend together and look more natural. This is the Wet n Wild Breakup Proof eyeliner, and I will use a compact mirror so I can see a little bit better. This is also better if you are applying it over a kind of matte surface. Maybe put like a little bit of powder on your eyelid first. If you're doing eyeshadow, you do it before this step. So things like eyeliner, you want to work with your own eye shape. So whether you have hooded eyes or you don't, I think the best practice is kind of just go slow, go with thin lines, and then it's easier to do it with your eye open like this, and you want to be looking forward, not up, not down. We're kind of looking in a natural kind of way. And you can kind of like, I'll kind of go like this as I do my eyeliner so I can see it from all angles so that it looks good no matter how I turn my head. So I'm kind of angling my head up so I see what it looks like with my eyelid more closed. And I don't have like hooded eyes per se, but I think kind of here, like just in this corner, it's kind of hooded. So I kind of make it like that little triangle there so that way it looks good when my eye is open or if my eye is closed. See, that's a little bit bigger of a cat eye than I was going for today. You don't have to do that big of a cat eye. I like the look of that, but it is definitely a dramatic eyeliner look. And what I also like about knowing that I'm going to be putting lashes over this is it doesn't have to be perfect because the lashes will cover it anyway. And then I kind of just check if they are symmetrical and matching. There's always the joke people say when you're doing eyeliner is you keep adding more to each side to make sure they match until you just have like this giant cat eye going all the way to the back of your head. This one I definitely made a little bit bigger than I normally do, but I also love the look of big dramatic eyeliner, so I will leave it. But it's really about working with your own eye shape and kind of looking at it with your eyes open and then kind of adjusting your head to look at it with your eyelid more closed and with your eyelid more open, if that makes sense. That is especially a good tip for if you do have hooded eyes, because you want the wing to still be visible when your eye is open and the eyelid kind of folds under. Okay. Lashes. So I will start a new pair of lashes just so you can see the process. Just going to take it off of here carefully. You want to make sure you don't pull or rip the band. And when picking your lashes, that is kind of the most important step of having lashes that look natural, is the lashes that you're using in the first place. So I really like these because there's kind of a balance with the lash band here, like this, where it's flexible so that it will conform to your eye. So you don't want a lash band that's way too stiff, because then it won't conform to your eye. It'll just keep going back to a straight line and popping off as you put it on. But I think a common misconception a lot of people have with alopecia lashes in particular is if they're going for a natural look, they'll go for those lashes that really advertise like light, feathery, invisible lash band. And I used to always get those, and then I found if I wore those really, really ultra lightweight lashes, they would kind of droop throughout the day. Because if you think about it, if you don't have any eyelashes like I don't, you don't have a lash base to help hold up the lashes. So you actually want to have a nice in-between where the lash band is a little bit more firm, not so stiff that it's not going to conform to your eye, but not so flimsy that it's going to droop without your natural lashes holding it up. So when you first take a pair of lashes out, generally they're going to be longer than your eye, depending on your eye shape. That way people can trim them to fit their own eye shape. So when you take out a new pair of lashes, you want to kind of check on, without any glue, you want to just hold it to your lash, put it where it's going to be, and you can see about that little teeny tiny amount goes past my eyelid. So you know that that's the amount that you want to trim. So you can use like a little nail scissor or something like that, and pretty much just, can you guys see what I'm doing? That little bit is about what it is for me. There we go. And so I'm working with a tapered lash, which means it is shorter on the inner corner and longer on the outer corner. And so you want to be aware of which side you're cutting from. Generally, I like to preserve the shorter inner corner because it looks really natural and will blend really nicely. So I usually cut from the longer side. But if you have a lash that has a really nice kind of dramatic end, then maybe in some cases you want to cut from the inside, but it just depends on the lash style. And then also, this is something to notice here, is sometimes when you take it out of the package, it'll have a little tiny bit of leftover material on the lash band where there's no hair on it. I'm not trimming the lash, but I'm trimming that extra band where it overhangs, because I never used to do that, but if you leave that there, it might kind of poke you in the eye and bother you. So if you have sensitive eyes and you can't figure out why they're never comfortable, try doing that and see if it helps. And then I'm just gonna cut this one the exact same way because I know how much I cut off the other one. So just about that much there. Hello, hello. And then same thing, I'm not cutting the lash, I'm just cutting that little tiny, can you guys see that? That little teeny tiny overhang of the lash band. And again, I'm doing all of these steps very slowly just to be able to explain them in detail. Sometimes when I'm doing makeup tutorials like this for lashes and brows, I can't decide if I'm just giving too much excruciating detail, but I also find that these are the details that I had to learn from trial and error. And so I like to kind of just be able to share that all with you all at once, so that if there's any chance that any of you are going to run into any of these little mistakes, then I'm just kind of giving you all the information you need possible. So lash glues. I like lash glues that dry dark because I am wearing them over dark eyeliner. If you are not wearing dark eyeliner under, then probably go for a clear drying glue. Personally, I find the clear drying glue a little bit harder to make look natural because you have to make sure it's super close to your eyelid. Some glues that say they dry clear actually kind of dry with a little bit of white tint to them. That's why I pretty much always wear black eyeliner under my lashes. I just find it so much easier and I don't have to be as meticulously careful. But you can do that, of course. This is the Duo Dark Drying Lash Glue. And so if I want to make sure my lashes are not going to budge, I will put lash glue with this on the lash band, and then I'll use a lash glue like this, which has like a brush. I really like this one. This is from a brand called Kiss. This is the Super Stronghold Eyelash Adhesive, also dries black. And if it has an applicator like this, you can also brush that onto your eyelid. So you're putting a little bit of glue on your eyelid and on the lash band. They also have, I don't have it with me, but they also have what is essentially something that looks like an eyeliner tip that's actually glue. So if you have trouble working with glue or you're worried about poking yourself in the eye, that's a really good beginner option as well because it feels like you're using an eyeliner, but it's actually has an adhesive to it, so that's great. So what I like to do, a lot of times if I'm just in a rush, I will put just this on my eyelid and that's it, and I can just pop them on and they will last. But if you want to make sure the lashes are not going to budge, I put just a tiny bit of this Duo Lash Glue on the lash band, not too much. Another common mistake that I personally used to make is I used to put so much glue because I was like, oh, if I put more glue, it'll last better. But in reality, that just makes it much, much harder to apply. So I just kind of put a little dot and then spread it with the tip here. And read your individual lash glue instructions, but most of them will say, make sure you let it get tacky. So generally, I think this one says wait about 30 seconds. I sometimes wait a little bit more. But if you put the lash glue on the lash band and go to put it on right away, it'll still be too liquidy, and that's how you're gonna kind of get it all kind of slipping all over the place. So to save time, I will put the lash glue on the lashes, and while that's becoming tacky and setting, I'll take this and put it on my eyelid. So if you're working with this or something like a brush-on glue, make sure you only have a little tiny bit. You don't want to risk getting this in your eye. That will hurt and probably mess up the rest of your makeup. You're gonna have to start over. So, especially if you already have the lash glue on the lash band, this is just kind of a good secondary adhesive. And it also kind of gives it like a good landing strip because you kind of get that tacky surface on your eyelid. So once you put the lash in place, it's gonna really hold to where you put it. I think if you're someone who really has trouble putting on lashes, putting the lash glue just on your eyelid and trying to work with that is actually a really good solution because that way it can only stick where you want it to stick. Do you know what I mean? So like if you have the lash glue, this is really hard to do while talking. If you have the lash glue on your eyelid and like maybe your hands are shaky and you kind of place it like here at first, it's not gonna stick there because the lash glue is only there. So yeah. But I generally like to put the lash glue on both just to give it that extra strong hold, and then it's just not going anywhere. Sorry for the phone ringing in the background. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna get close to the camera. Okay, I just muted myself for a second with the noise in the background. So now, as you can see, I probably waited more than 30 seconds for this to get tacky, but I think that's ideal because then it's not going to be kind of slippery, and that way it'll just be easier to put on. Something else, if it's a new pair of lashes, sometimes I'll even kind of give it a little bend like this. Don't be too rough with it because they can break easily. They're very delicate, just to kind of help conform to your eye shape before you put them on. You get nice and close so you guys can really see what I'm doing. Sometimes people like to use tweezers. I like to use my fingertips, and I'm kind of holding it from that part there. Make sure you do not have any glue on your fingers because there's nothing more frustrating than putting the lash down, trying to take it away, and then it sticks to your finger. So make sure, no, you're not sticking to the thing. I like to line up the inner corner there and then just kind of roll it out. And then I can kind of use my fingertips to adjust placement, because before the lash glue dries, you can kind of move it slightly left or right. And I like to make sure they're drying up, not out, because that will make your eyes look like they're half shut. So as they're drying, I like to gently kind of make sure they're staying in this kind of position like that. And again, once you have practiced doing this, I can do my whole makeup routine. Of course, on this live stream, I'm taking a long time to talk through everything, but I can do my whole makeup routine in less than 10 minutes. So these things might seem intimidating if you are new to trying out alopecia makeup, but with a little bit of practice, you should be able to do this really quickly. And a lot of these things, you kind of learn what works for you by doing it a few times. There's some people who cannot do lashes without using a tweezer. I can't even use a tweezer if I try. Some people like to place the lash in the middle first. Some people like to place it on the side first. It's really just about what is easier for you. I'm just giving you the tips that have worked for me. And yeah, I think working with the proper pair of lashes is a really major point, because sometimes you just have a pair of lashes that's not gonna cooperate with you properly. And so yeah, I think these look pretty natural. So these are kind of what I would refer to as my natural looking pair. They do look like kind of an eyelash extension vibe, but I think that's really pretty. And then I do have there's a lot of fun multi-packs online that you can get for pretty cheap. Like this is a multi-pack with maybe 4 different styles. Most of these are a little too dramatic for my taste. I end up using a lot of these for costumes rather than daily wear, but it's just fun to try a couple of different options. And so yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. And I'm just gonna do a couple little touch-ups here and there. I feel like my concealer needs a little more. And usually by this point in my makeup, I'm more or less done now. And I think once I have the whole makeup look done, then I check my brows again to see if they still look good with everything else. Because I swear, sometimes I'll do my brows in the beginning of a makeup routine, and then I'll look at the end, and like one is way up here and one's down here, and I'm like, did my face morph? I don't understand. That's what happens to me all the time. So if you feel like that happens to you, that's totally normal. Sometimes the way your face is, like the way you're using your muscles while you're doing your makeup, and then you relax your face, and like your face shape is different. Does that make sense? Like you might be kind of flexing certain muscles that you don't know you're flexing while you're doing your makeup. And then when you have a fully relaxed face, when you're not looking in the mirror, then maybe you're not holding your brow in the same way that you were when you were doing it. So I'm just kind of looking at it at the start of the routine and then looking at it again at the end of the makeup routine is a good way to... I'm just adding more blush because I felt like my blush kind of faded. I was looking a little pale. So yeah, that is more or less my alopecia makeup routine. Oh, I do want to do one more quick thing. Where's my eyeliner? Is this the one I was using? I have 2 of these right now, and one of them is older. I think this is the old one. When I am putting lashes over dark eyeliner, something else that's really helpful is to, where the lash band ends here, if you add a little more eyeliner there, rather than having that abrupt edge of where the lash ends, you can kind of blend that with the eyeliner. And then if I feel like it's looking too separated from my eyelid, I also like to use a black pencil liner and tight line that part of my eye. Because you just don't want any of your like skin tone showing between the lash and your eye. You just want it to kind of all blend with the makeup. Yes, I'm quite happy with that now. A couple other things I want to mention. A brush-on lash glue like this, whether it's a brush-on lash glue or if it's the lash glue I was mentioning before, that's basically like an eyeliner combined with a lash glue, 2-in-1. Really, really good for touch-ups on the go. So a lot of times, if you're out and about, chances are your lash probably won't fall off completely, but what might happen is maybe it'll start to come up on one side or the other. And so rather than having to be out in public and take your whole lash off and have to do the whole thing in a public bathroom or something like that, it's much, much easier to keep something like this with you and do a little touch up. So always be careful, you don't want to get this in your eye, but just kind of adding like a little tiny dot just in the spots you need it, rather than having to take your whole lash off and start over, which is such a pain. It kind of ruins your makeup underneath. So yes, yes, yes. Mina Moon Sparkles. Oh, she was my guest last week. Go check out her page. Hello, hello. How are you doing? So for Alopecia Awareness Month, we've been doing a lot of alopecia-focused live streams. So Mina joined us last week for a little chat about alopecia and wigs. Okay, so yeah, that is more or less the makeup routine. The other thing I wanted to show, sorry, I keep like remembering little tiny details I want to include. This is also another optional thing. I don't have any bottom eyelashes, so sometimes I like to go in and just add. Is this my old eyeliner? This might be my old one. If the eyeliner's not coming out properly, you can kind of like get the product into the tip of it by doing that. I like to just add little tiny like flicks here. That's not necessarily supposed to look like bottom lashes. Like I don't think that's tricking anyone, but I think it just kind of looks nice to kind of make it not so bare underneath. They do even make bottom lash fake lashes. I actually bought a pack of those that I don't have with me right now that I've been wanting to try. I feel like it's way too much of a hassle to do regularly, but it could be cool to try. I think a lot of alopecia makeup products, I think the mindset that if you are trying to learn how to do specific alopecia makeup techniques, because maybe you're just developing alopecia, maybe you're just starting to lose your lashes and brows, it can be really daunting, and you can kind of go into it with this feeling of, oh, this is something I have to do. You don't have to do any of this by any means. Like, you look beautiful exactly how you are without makeup. These things are there if you want to try them. If you want to fill in your brows with pencil, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And so I think going into it with a mindset of, oh, this is something fun to try. It's a new hobby to explore. It can just kind of really help your mindset. I know easier said than done sometimes, of course, but going into it thinking like, oh, I can try out these different products. It's a new hobby. It's like you're getting new art supplies. Like, these are two different eyebrow pencils that I really, really like. I have the e.l.f. retractable one, the CoverGirl retractable one. It's really fun to try both and see which one I like better. Try the temporary brow tattoos. Those are a fun option. Trying different lashes. Like I was showing you these before, these really dramatic giant lashes. Of course, these don't look natural, but they don't have to look natural. I'm not trying to necessarily like fool people with my makeup. Of course, it is nice to know really realistic looking techniques, but it's also just fun to try the really over-the-top dramatic lashes as well. So just try to have fun with it going into it. Add a little gloss because this is why, even though I can do my makeup routine in 10 minutes if I'm in a rush, it's so fun to just keep adding little touches. I could just do it all day. Okay, so last thing I'm gonna do, sometimes at this point, if I'm feeling a little shiny, I'll put more powder. I already put powder, so I'm gonna put my setting spray. Again, setting spray is super important for helping the brows last. I know I started spraying mid-sentence. Okay. Again, this is the Milani Make It Last with SPF. So I love that this is SPF. Please remember, if you're ever going to rock the shaved head look, if you're gonna stop here and not wear a wig, please remember to put sunscreen on your head, okay? Always remember to put sunscreen on your head and here, because parts of your head that are exposed, that aren't normally exposed, they're gonna be really sensitive to the sun. But I am gonna show a couple of wigs that I like for alopecia, and I am actually also going to be recording a video about some of my favorite wigs for alopecia for the René of Paris channel, so keep an eye out for that before the end of the month. I'll go into much greater detail about the wigs there. But I think if you are just getting into wigs for alopecia, the two of our collections that I would really highly recommend checking out are the Amore line. So René of Paris Amore line, specifically designed for people with hair loss and alopecia. And when I first was learning about wigs, so of course I work with René of Paris now, and I love working with René of Paris. They're such an amazing company to work with, and they're just so supportive of the alopecia and hair loss community. But I've been wearing their wigs since I was like 12, maybe even younger, because they've just worked for me for all these years. And specifically since age 12, from like age 12 to age 18, more or less, I was wearing this wig style. This is Cody from the Amore line, and it is just such a good, easy, natural style. And I emphasize easy because, like I was saying at the beginning of this video, yeah, there are some wigs that you can like take hours to glue on, like human hair wigs that you have to style every day. Some really great options out there. But I loved, at that age especially, just being able to do this and leave. And then I'm done. I can go off to school, to work, wherever I'm going, I'm done. And it looks natural. So features that the Amore line has that look really natural are the monofilament wig cap. It looks like your own scalp. Change the hair in any direction. You have the flexibility for styling, and it just looks so realistic. So I went to a wig shop one day when I was around 12 years old with my parents, and the woman working there introduced me to this wig, and I wore this all through my school years. And at the time, I was very, very secretive about alopecia, and so I wanted a wig that would look natural and that people wouldn't be questioning it, and it absolutely worked so well for me. So if I wanted to open up to someone and tell them I had alopecia, I could, but generally people just assumed that my wig was my hair, which did give me peace of mind at that age. So I used to wear this wig style in blonde all the time. I happen to have it in brunette right now. But it's actually funny because I used to wear this wig color in this wig style in this color, and I used to wear this style in this color, and I have the swapped versions right now. So in my kind of high school, middle school years, I wore this, and then when I went to college, I switched to this style. But so that monofilament wig cap gives you that flexibility to change the part, and I could talk for hours about the benefits of human hair and the benefits of synthetic, but both have their place. One is not better than the other. I love both for different occasions. And having synthetic wigs to just be able to throw on, they hold their style. You take it out of the box, it's pre-styled, you don't have to do anything to it, and it holds the style. You wash the wig, it dries, it goes back to that style naturally. So, so easy. So especially now that I am older and I have more time to dedicate to learning styling for human hair wigs, it is really nice to learn that. And human hair wigs are so gorgeous, and you get a lot of styling flexibility with human hair wigs. But like synthetic wigs, having that for my younger years especially was so important, because if I wore human hair wigs when I was younger, let's be real, my hair would have always looked frizzy and crazy. I would not have known how to style them. So yeah, and then I want to show you the cap construction. And that's just personal for me, just because when I was younger I didn't know hairstyling techniques. So if you're wearing human hair wigs, you also have to know a little bit more wig maintenance. Nothing too over the top. They are still a really amazing option. We have videos dedicated to the benefits of different hair fibers, but for me personally, synthetic were just so easy. So lots of synthetic options in the Amore line. Here's what that cap construction looks like that I was showing you from the inside. So it looks incredibly natural on top, but the other thing that's great is that it's very, very soft and smooth. So I wear these directly on my shaved head. You can choose to wear a wig cap, but I don't feel the need because I do find them very, very comfortable. Open wefting, so it's breathable, adjustable straps. And I don't need any sort of adhesive. I don't use a wig grip. And if it's adjusted to my proper head size, then it is so secure. I can do like cartwheels in this. And I keep emphasizing the fact that, especially like if you don't want to put time and effort into putting on a wig, the fact that they're glueless, and yeah. So same with this style, another one of my favorites. Because I was so secretive about my alopecia when I was younger, I didn't really like start being more open about my alopecia until I was maybe in my early 20s, or maybe like 19, 20 is when I was really starting to open up to people more. So when I was in high school, I wore this style every single day. Periodically would replace it because you do have to replace synthetic wigs over time, but I would only wear that style, and I wanted people to believe it was my hair. So when I went away to university, I figured I was going to a place with all new people who didn't know what I looked like before, so I took it as an opportunity to dramatically change my hairstyle to this. But imagine I'm telling this story with the colors swapped. So when I was in high school, I wore Cody in creamy blonde, and when I was in college, I wore Tatum in dark chocolate, but I have it in creamy blonde here. So another great style. So again, we're gonna have a whole video on our YouTube channel very soon about choosing a good wig for alopecia. But this is also personal preference, but I do think there is a benefit to having shorter wigs as your daily wear wig because they're just easier to manage. Shorter fibers, just like there's not enough hair there to tangle. These never ever tangle. I could just throw it on my head, comb it out with my fingers, and be good to go. I find that they also last a bit longer in my experience because there's just less hair to rub against your clothing, so you get friction frizz a little bit less quickly. Of course, if you like the longer styles, then they're still gonna work really well for you. So if you just really do not like short hair, so you can disregard that if you want to. I just find shorter styles a lot easier to manage for daily wear for someone who wants very minimal maintenance. So yeah, you can see here as well that really natural looking monofilament. So it just allows you to really change the hair in any direction and have it look natural. And yeah, so very comfortable, glueless, easy to wear. These are just two of my longtime favorite styles from the Amore collection. I always like to have them as part of my collection, even though I switch it up all the time now. But there's so many other styles to choose from that you can really find something that fits what you are looking for. If you're trying to find something that looked like what your hair looked like before it fell out, chances are you can probably find it. So many color options. There's light blondes, medium to dark brunette, and then there's rooted options, not rooted options. So creamy blonde, for example, is not rooted if you want to have the blonde going all the way to the root. And there's a lot of other similar colors that have a root, so it looks like your hair is kind of dyed but growing in, which I think gives a very, very realistic looking effect. There's some beautiful like ombre colors, streaks. There's so many options that you could absolutely find something for what you're looking for. And then I will also just put on the wig that I started the video with. This is a human hair wig. This is from the Amore line. But this is an older style, but you can definitely check out the ones that the Amore line currently has. So beautiful. And then again, also has that monofilament hair. And this one also has a lace front, so the lace front really gives you that natural hairline in the front. But the two wigs I was wearing a moment ago, Cody and Tatum, what I loved about those, for wearing those daily for years, is the fact that they have either a bang or a side bang, so this part is covered. So with wigs like that, you don't need a lace front because it's covered anyway. And sometimes having a lace front, that material is a little bit more delicate than if you didn't have a lace front. So lace fronts are so amazing, so natural looking, but you just have to be a little bit more careful. So if you want a wig that's like fully easy, don't even have to think about it, it actually kind of can be nice to have a wig without lace front as long as that hairline is covered with a bang or something, because looks very, very natural. And that is, again, just personal preference. But yeah, this wig is absolutely stunning. This is, again, from the Amore line. And then one more thing I want to mention is the Fair Fashion line as well that we have is a line of all really high-end, very, very beautiful human hair wigs. Similar kind of features, very natural looking, and then a lot of selection for if you do like human hair wig options. Again, check out our YouTube channel, René of Paris, for videos talking about the benefits of different fibers. Now that I'm someone that switches up my wigs regularly, I do like to have both in my collection, but generally for daily wear, I still reach for synthetic, and then I just use human hair for certain occasions or if I want that kind of look. And yeah, we also have our Christine Headwear line as well, which is really good for if you don't want to wear wigs, but you want to wear maybe like a turban or a headband, just a really nice soft material that can also help protect your head from the sun, protect it from the cold, things like that. And again, beautiful both ways. You don't have to wear wigs unless you want to. And if you do choose to wear wigs, just remember that they are accessories and they're fun to play with, just like any other hat or hair tie or hair bow. They're just another accessory and they're fun to play around with. So yeah. I hope this video was helpful. I really wanted to give a deep dive on my alopecia makeup routine. I think it came out pretty nicely. I think those brows are looking pretty good. And I do also like to keep a touch-up kit with me. So at the very least, my brow pencil and this lash glue, again, which is really good for touch-ups. And maybe a little compact mirror. That way, if your lash feels like it's coming up, you can just give yourself the peace of mind by pulling at your compact mirror and be like, oh, is it good? It's good? Okay, good, we're good. That way you don't have to be like, oh my gosh, I have to find a mirror, like where's the nearest bathroom? Like it sometimes makes me feel really vain that I'm like, oh, I always have to have my compact mirror with me. But it's for reasons like that, and it is nice to be able to check, because chances are your lash probably looks fine, but being able to just give a quick look just gives you the peace of mind. It's always nice. Okay, so again, if you joined this video late or you want to go back and watch a specific step that I talked about earlier, it will be posted on the René of Paris Instagram here, so you can watch the full video there. Feel free to comment any questions and I can answer your questions there. You can also follow me directly on my page, abbyandrew.yt, and you can always DM me if you have any questions there as well. And I do have a list of all of my favorite lash and brow products for alopecia on my personal website, which is abbyandrew.com. So yes, again, don't forget to follow René of Paris on YouTube and Instagram. So much good wig tips, content, and I just love how much René of Paris works with the hair loss community and the alopecia community to show real life examples of me right here representing the alopecia community, real life examples of people using their wigs. You know, it's not in a vacuum. It kind of is within the community, and it's just knowing that these have worked so well for me for more than half my life at this point. It's just, I love to be able to share the tips that I have learned with all of you as well. So also check out reneofparis.com if you want to learn more about any of the wigs that I showed here. Again, the Amore line, highly recommend, and the Fair Fashion line, really great for human hair wig options, and all of our other lines have beautiful styles as well, but those are the two that I would really recommend you check out first for hair loss or alopecia. Okay everyone, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for hanging out today, and I will talk to you soon. Bye everyone.